Hi everyone, it's Sabrina, your virtual student foreign service e-intern. Last week we received numerous questions on the U.S. Embassy Libya Facebook page about international admissions. Today I'll be meeting with the Director of International Admissions at my school, Boston University, to answer some of your questions.
Hello everyone, my name is Corriveau and I'm the Director of International Admissions at Boston University. And I'm delighted to be here today to answer the many questions that you've posed through the Embassy of Libya Facebook page. And I know your questions have been rolling in, and I'm delighted to hopefully offer some insights and to help answer those questions.
Thanks so much. I'm glad I was able to meet with you today to answer some of the questions from our fans on the U.S. Embassy Libya page. I think it's time to start with some questions. One of our fans asked if you can explain the difference between community colleges and universities.
Sure. So the difference between community colleges and universities tend to be that community colleges tend to be shorter term, so they tend to be 2 years and offer an associate's degree, and universities tend to be larger and offer 4-year, typically bachelor's degrees. But I want to add by saying that there are more than 3,500 higher education institutions in the United States, and they come in a variety of guises. So certainly while people think about community college and universities, there's a myriad of things in between. There are specialized colleges that offer just the arts, and some that offer certain vocational areas. So there's just a plethora of opportunities in higher ed in the United States.
Thank you. Our next question from one of our fans is, what are the requirements for admissions? Is there an age limit, and do universities usually help students obtain a visa?
The first question's about admissions. It's a great question. I think one of the challenges perhaps about applying to the U.S., I mentioned one of the benefits, right, are all the different types of universities, which is exciting. There's something literally for everyone. I think one of the challenges may be that in different universities and colleges have different requirements when it comes to admission. So I can only really speak to perhaps what BU has, and I think we probably represent a good number of 4-year institutions in the U.S., and that is that we require, obviously, your transcript of grades. I think probably every university would require some form of proof of your academic work in your background. Many of us require standardized testing. In the U.S., that's typically the SAT or the ACT, which are standardized tests that many universities require. And then the TOEFL or the IELTS if English is not your native language, and there are many other English proficiency exams that are accepted at universities. Other than the application itself, we have essays that we love to get to know about you, the student, and what it is that you're going to bring to our dynamic communities here. In terms of immigration, I think you can feel confident that any university is going to be very supportive in helping you acquire a visa to come to the U.S. I know that's often a source of anxiety for students to kind of think about, the next step once they're admitted. They have almost a concept of having another admission, right? They have to think about, how do I get the documents to allow me to come to the United States or whatever country you're looking at. And so just know that we have offices in place that are designed only, their sole responsibility is to support you in your coming to the United States to the best of our ability.
Thanks. The next question is, if my scholarship to continue studying in the U.S. has stopped due to the conditions in Libya, are there any available resources for students in my situation? Could you suggest some resources to find scholarship?
Yeah, that's a challenging question. Again, institutions have different policies around scholarship, so while some universities may fully fund students, others may have very limited funding, and some may have no funding at all. So when it comes to outside resources, I always tell students to start with their Education USA office, because there may be some local opportunities that we may not be apprised of. So that's just a great place to start.
Thanks. I know you talked a little bit about the English proficiency requirements. Is there a minimum or suggested score?
Again, I feel like my answers are always, well, it depends on the university, but it really depends on where a student is studying. For BU, I'd say we probably have a high TOEFL, and just to give students out there a sense of what that looks like, the average student that's admitted to our undergraduate program has a TOEFL of about 105, or over a 7 on the IELTS, which is another comparable exam. So those are fairly high scores, and I think we do look carefully at all the sub-scores as well. So you're going to be tested not just on as an overall score, but also on speaking, listening, reading, writing, depending on the different type of test. And we're going to look at those to make sure you have all the skills to really be successful in our classrooms.
Thanks. Another question is, how can someone who has met all the admissions requirements except the English proficiency one enhance their chances of getting accepted? Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think students, while they may be fabulous academically and great standardized test takers, it's that English piece that we find really important in terms of predicting if a student will be successful on our campus. So I would tell students out there to practice, practice, practice. Find opportunities wherever you can to speak English, get with friends and try to converse solely in English. And we do understand the challenges there. We don't expect you to come to our campuses, perfectly fluent. And we know you're going to grow a lot in your time with us, in your 4 years with us. But just keep practicing. Take the exam more than once if you're able to do that. We see big increases often when students get familiar not only with English but with the exams themselves, and they end up really increasing their scores.
Thanks. So now I'll start asking some general admissions questions. Are the applications from international students treated differently from U.S. citizens in the admissions process?
Great question. I get that question a lot. As if I apply as an international student, how does that make me different in terms of selection and how that happens? Basically it's fair to say that what we're looking for in domestic students is the same thing we're looking for in international students. We're looking for bright, talented students who are eager to be in our classrooms and can really picture themselves on our campus. So, having said that, I think there's a couple things that do distinguish an international student from a domestic student, and one of which is English language proficiency, which we talked about. So that's the other piece that needs to be sort of demonstrated. But know that also domestic students need to do that too. There are a number of students in the United States for whom English is not their native language, so we have to look at that for domestic students as well. But essentially, academically speaking, it's virtually the same.
Thanks. What would you consider the most important factors when deciding whether to accept an international student?
I think, we touched upon the importance of English proficiency, and certainly that's important. But I think academic background and academic work, and I often find that international students are maybe nervous that we don't understand how rigorous their high school work can be. And I guess I want to assure students out there that we take time to research your systems of education around the world, certainly not just in Libya, but everywhere, so that we make sure we understand, what is it like to come from the French Bac, or to study in India, or wherever you are in the world, to make sure we're really giving a fair assessment of the kind of quality that students have in secondary school around the world.
Where should applicants send high school transcripts, and which standardized tests are required for undergraduate admissions?
Again, that's a big depends, right? Because it varies from institution to institution. For us, all application materials virtually are sent online now, with the exception of a few pieces of the application. Counselors can send things electronically to us, high school counselors. Many of you may not have a high school counselor. So for many of you, it might be that the mail, or we would prefer courier if you can, have things sent directly to us via mail. But in terms of standardized testing, we require the SAT or the ACT, but many institutions do not require standardized testing at all. So it really depends on what institution you're applying to.
Thanks. Do students typically get a job on campus to pay for expenses?
Great question. I think finances is obviously a very important question, and this varies greatly from school to school in terms of what institutions can provide to students. I tend to be very forthright about it. I tell students, look, certainly you can work on campus up to 20 hours a week, and that's under the rules of the regulations of the F1 student visa, but you should know that that money will be really kind of, I call it pocket change in a way. It's not money that's going to really decrease your tuition amount, for example. That's just money kind of on top of your tuition. It's money that you can enjoy and sort of explore the city with, but I wouldn't tell students to really depend on that to help them pay tuition. Tuition is expensive in many private institutions and also in public universities.
Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. It's great to be here, and I wish everyone out there the best on your journey, wherever it takes you, to higher education in the world. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. I hope this video was helpful and informational for you. Best of luck on your college admissions process, and as always, feel free to suggest any video content you would like to see in the future.